Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 3rd chapter, towards the end of this chapter, Krishna describes what is lust. Trying to understand what is lust, Krishna explains in the 42nd verse, Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. The meaning of this verse is, the working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Krishna is giving a hierarchy of matter. Above that is the senses, above that is the mind, above that is the intelligence, and above that is the soul. So Prabhupada explains, with regard to lust, what is the relationship of this explanation to lust? Srila Prabhupada says, the senses are different outlets for the activities of lust. Lust is reserved within the body, but it is given vent through the senses. Therefore, the senses are superior to the body as a whole. These outlets are not in use when there is superior consciousness or Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, the soul makes direct connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the bodily functions, as described here, ultimately end in the Supreme Soul. Bodily action means the functions of the senses, and stopping the senses means stopping all bodily actions. But since the mind is active, then even though the body may be silent and at rest, the mind will act as it does during dreaming. But above the mind, there is a determination of the intelligence, and above the intelligence is the soul proper. If therefore the soul is directly engaged with the Supreme, naturally all other subordinates, namely the intelligence, mind and the senses, will be automatically engaged. One has to strengthen the mind by use of intelligence. If by intelligence one engages one's mind in Krishna consciousness, by complete surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then automatically the mind becomes stronger. And even though the senses are very strong, like serpents, they will be no more effective than serpents with broken fangs. Even though the soul is the master of intelligence and mind, and the senses also, still, unless it is strengthened by association with Krishna in Krishna consciousness, there is every chance of falling down due to the agitated mind. What Srila Prabhupada is explaining is, lust is a problem. Lust is the cause for somebody to act sinfully, even though unwillingly, as if by force. That force is due to lust that is stored inside the senses, the mind and the intelligence. Now, to overcome this lust, Srila Prabhupada says we have to understand this hierarchy, and ultimately the soul is important, the real soul, the spirit soul. The soul has to be strengthened by Krishna consciousness. That's the only way. We will see in this example of the life of Ajamila described in the Srimad-Bhagavatam how Ajamila, because he was not in Krishna consciousness, he could not control his lust. That is described here. In the Bhagavatam it is said, the story of Ajamila, in the beginning this Brahmana named Ajamila studied all the Vedic literatures. He was a reservoir of good character, good conduct and good qualities. Firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions, he was very mild and gentle. He kept his mind and senses under control. Furthermore, he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras, and he was also very pure. Ajamila was respectful to his spiritual master, the fire god, guests, and the elderly members of his household. Indeed, he was free from false prestige. He was upright, benevolent to all living entities, and well behaved. He would never speak nonsense. He would never envy anyone. Now, this pure, good-hearted, pious, well-behaved, nice, perfect, gentle Ajamila, how did he fall down? That is being described now. Once this Brahmana Ajamila, following the order of his father, went to the forest to collect fruit, flowers, and two kinds of grass called Samit and Kusha. On the way home, he came upon a Shudra, a very lusty fourth-class man, who was shamelessly embracing and kissing a prostitute. The Shudra was smiling, singing, and enjoying as if this were proper behavior. Both the Shudra and the prostitute were drunk. The prostitute's eyes were rolling in intoxication, and her dress had become loose. Such was the condition in which Ajamila saw them. The Shudra, his arm decorated with turmeric powder, was embracing the prostitute. When Ajamila saw her, the dormant lusty desires in his heart awakened, and in illusion he fell under their control. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of the Shastras, not even to see a woman. With the help of this knowledge and his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires. But because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. In the same way that the sun and moon are eclipsed by a low planet, this Brahmana Ajamila lost all his good sense. Taking advantage of this situation, he always thought of the prostitute, and within a short time, he took her as a servant in his house and abandoned all the regulative principles of a Brahmana. Thus, Ajamila began spending whatever money he had inherited from his father to satisfy the prostitute with various material presentations so that she would remain pleased with him. He gave up all his Brahminical activities to satisfy the prostitute. Because his intelligence was pierced by the lustful glance of the prostitute, the victimized Brahmana Ajamila engaged in sinful acts in her association. He even gave up the company of his very beautiful young wife, who came from a very respectable Brahmana family. Although born of a Brahmana family, this Ajamila, bereft of intelligence because of the prostitute's association, earned money somehow or other, regardless of whether properly or improperly, and used it to maintain the prostitute's sons and daughters. This Brahmana irresponsibly spent his long lifetime transgressing all the rules and regulations of the Holy Scripture, living extravagantly and eating food prepared by the sinful woman. Therefore, he is full of sins, he is unclean and is addicted to forbidden activities. This man Ajamila did not undergo any atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, the Yamadutas are telling, we must take him into the presence of Yamaraj for punishment. So, what is being described here is how a very nice Brahmana, because he was not engaged in devotional service, without the strength of devotional service, even though he was a well-behaved, pure, gentle person, he got carried away by lusty desires and he fell down from his Brahmanical position and he became completely engaged in sinful activities. He became overcome by lust. So what Krishna is telling here is that unless one is able to properly establish this hierarchy, and that is possible only by strengthening the soul with Krishna consciousness. That's the only way. By Krishna consciousness, one can easily overcome lust. In the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains, simply by surrendering to Krishna, one can easily overcome the influence of Maya, the material energy, illusory energy. But there are people who don't surrender to Krishna. Instead, some of them, they surrender to devatas, demigods. That is explained in the 20th verse of the 7th chapter. Kamaistaistai hritagyana prapadyante anya devataha tam niyamamasthaya prakritya niyata swaya. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. So Krishna is describing those who surrender to devatas for the sake of some fulfillment of material desires. In the Bhagavatam, there is a description by Shukadeva Goswami to Parikshit Maharaj about one Vrikasura who worshipped Shiva for some material desire to be fulfilled. And we can see how this Vrikasura, what he did. Let us hear from Shukadeva Goswami. Lord Brahma, Shukadeva Goswami is describing, Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, the principal trio of the material creation, are able to bless or curse anyone. Of this trio, Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are very easily satisfied, but also very easily angered. When satisfied, they give benedictions without any consideration. And when angry, they curse the devotee without again any consideration. But Lord Vishnu is not like that. Lord Vishnu is very, very considerate. When a devotee wants something from Lord Vishnu first considers whether such a benediction will ultimately be good for the devotee. Lord Vishnu never bestows any benediction which will ultimately prove disastrous to the devotee. By his transcendental nature, Lord Vishnu is always merciful. Therefore, before giving any benediction, he considers whether this benediction will prove beneficial for the devotee or not. As for the benediction given by the demigods like Lord Shiva, there is the following historical incident cited by great sages. Once Lord Shiva, after giving a benediction to a demon named Vrikasura, was himself trapped in a very dangerous position. Lord Shiva himself got into a dangerous position. Now hear the incident. Vrikasura, this demon, was searching after a benediction and trying to decide which of the three presiding deities to worship in order to get this benediction. In the meantime, he happened to meet great sage Narada and consulted with Narada as to whom he should worship in order to quickly achieve results from his austerity. He inquired from Narada, Of the three deities, namely Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu and Lord Shiva, who is most quickly satisfied? Narada could understand the plan of this Asura, and he advised him, you had better worship Lord Shiva, then you will quickly get the desired result. Lord Shiva is very quickly satisfied and very quickly dissatisfied also. So you try to satisfy Lord Shiva. Narada also cited instances wherein demons like Ravana and Banasura were enriched with great opulences simply by satisfying Lord Shiva with prayers. Because the great sage Narada was aware of the nature of this demon Vrikasura, he did not advise him to approach Vishnu or Lord Brahma. Persons such as Vrikasura, who are situated in the material mode of ignorance, cannot stick to the worship of Vishnu. After receiving instruction from Narada, the demon Vrikasura went to Kedarnath and ignited a sacrificial fire to please Lord Shiva. After igniting the fire in the name of Lord Shiva, this Vrikasura, in order to please Lord Shiva, began to offer his own flesh by cutting it from his body. In the Bhagavad Gita it is stated that worshippers of the devatas have lost their intelligence, Kritagyana. As revealed later in this chapter, Vrikasura wanted to satisfy Lord Shiva for a third-class material objective which was temporary and without any real benefit. Therefore, the Bhagavad Gita says the worshippers of devatas are bereft of intelligence. They don't have intelligence, they don't have buddhi. Their process of worship is very difficult. At the same time, the result they get is flickering and temporary. Let us understand now through this incident. Vrikasura continued his sacrifice for 6 days. He was unable to personally see Lord Shiva, which was his objective. Why did he want to see Shiva? Because he wanted to ask a benediction from Shiva. On the 7th day, this demon Vrikasura decided that he should cut off his head and offer it to satisfy Lord Shiva. Thus he took a bath in a nearby lake. Without drying his body and hair, he prepared to cut off his head. When the demon was thus preparing to cut off his head, Lord Shiva became very compassionate. This compassion of Shiva was aroused not because the demon was offering his flesh into the sacrificial fire, but because this demon was about to commit suicide. Lord Shiva's touch saved the demon from committing suicide. The demon's bodily injuries immediately healed by the touch of Shiva, and his body became as it was before. Then Lord Shiva told the demon, "My dear Vrikasura, you do not need to cut off your head. You may ask from me any benediction you like, and I shall fulfill your desire. I become satisfied even by offering of little water." Out of compassion and sympathy, Lord Shiva prepared to give him any benediction this demon liked. When the demon was offered this facility by Lord Shiva, he asked Lord Shiva to bless him with such power that as soon as he would touch anyone's head, it would immediately crack and the man would die. Lord Shiva could understand the motive of this demon, and he was very sorry that he had assured this demon whatever benediction he liked. He could not withdraw his promise, but he was sorry in his heart that he was to offer this demon a benediction so dangerous to human society. The demon, however, wanted to become immortal by killing everyone with a touch of his hand. Lord Shiva could understand this, but because he had promised, he gave this demon that benediction. The demon, however, being very sinful, immediately decided that he would use the benediction to kill Lord Shiva and take away Parvati, Shiva's wife, for his personal enjoyment. He immediately decided to place his hand on the head of Lord Shiva. Thus, Lord Shiva was put into an awkward position because Lord Shiva was endangered by his own benediction to this demon. This is an instance of a materialistic devotee misusing the power derived from the demigods. Now I'll take some questions. Here is a question. What happens if a person is in Krishna consciousness for 2 years and falls down, whether he has to take birth again? His parents are giving so much trouble to quit Krishna consciousness. Due to force of parents, he quits, but he has full devotion to Krishna. Now what we should understand in all cases, whether the external conditions are favorable or they are unfavorable, it is the inner determination and inner devotion of the particular devotee that is very important. Krishna consciousness is based on consciousness, inner consciousness. The externals may or may not be favorable in different situations. So typically, if parents are misunderstanding what is Krishna consciousness and they want to discourage the son or the children from practicing Krishna consciousness, then still within the heart, inside, internally, the devotee can be practicing in any situation, in any condition. Internally, the devotee can be Krishna conscious. It doesn't mean that Krishna consciousness doesn't mean only externally it is valid. It is in fact external and internal, but internal is more important. The inner consciousness is more important. So whatever advancement one makes in Krishna consciousness after practicing for 2 years, that advancement is permanent for the particular devotee. That advancement is never lost. But what happens in the future depends on the devotee's desires, the devotee's activities after stopping to practice, so many things. In any case, once somebody has begun Krishna consciousness, it is true that Krishna will always give such a devotee another opportunity in the future. If presently he is not engaged in Krishna consciousness, Krishna will give another opportunity in the future. Krishna is very eager to help us become Krishna conscious. More than we may be interested, Krishna is very eager. So Krishna wants to give as many opportunities as can be given to ensure that the devotee continues Krishna consciousness and becomes fully Krishna conscious by making advancement more and more and more. So that is Krishna's perspective. Now the devotee has to make the choice to actually continue Krishna consciousness when Krishna gives more and more opportunities in the future. Next question. It is said that sadhus take pleasure upon killing of snake and scorpions. How to understand this when snakes are worshipped in temple and is also Vishnu's divine bed? Well, when it is said, even sadhus or saintly persons who don't like killing, who are always non-violent, even they take pleasure when snakes and scorpions are killed. It means that such creatures who unnecessarily bite others, who unnecessarily give trouble without any reason at all. So such creatures, when they are killed, sadhus also take pleasure upon such killing. Now the snakes worshipped in the temple, or the snake who is the incarnation of Supreme Lord, who is the divine bed of the Lord Vishnu, are transcendental personalities. They may be having a external form resembling a snake, but they are not snakes. Just like when Krishna comes, he appears to have taken a human form, but Krishna does not take any material form, does not take any human form. Krishna comes in his original spiritual form. Similarly, the Supreme Lord in various incarnations, he comes in spiritual form, just like when he appeared as Narsimha, half man, half lion. So this form is completely spiritual. When he appears as Matsya Avatara, fish incarnation, the form looks like a fish, but it is not fish. It is a divine form, transcendental form, which resembles a fish. Kurmavatara, tortoise incarnation, it's a transcendental form which resembles a tortoise. Or Varaha Avatara, a transcendental form which resembles a boar. So all forms of Krishna are completely spiritual. None of them are material. Neither they have any material characteristics of the forms which they resemble. They don't have any material characteristic of snake or fish or tortoise or lion. No. Completely transcendental. So the two are completely different. Next question. How to understand who is our Krishna in this material world who can guide us in the right direction? How to define that person in our life? Or it is only I, myself, who can help me? Well, the answer is, the scriptures say, always you have to search out for the bona fide spiritual master who is the proper guide for you in spiritual life. The scriptures say everyone must seek out, search out for a spiritual master. Now in this present time, Srila Prabhupada is that spiritual master who is available. Even though Prabhupada is now not physically present, we can take his guidance through his institution, Krishna Consciousness Movement, Hare Krishna Movement or ISKCON Movement. We can take his guidance through his books. We can take his guidance through his followers, through his devotees. He has created all this for the sake of giving guidance to everyone in this present age. So Srila Prabhupada is available. Srila Prabhupada is a spiritual master. He is present for guiding everyone in spiritual life. He wants to guide everyone to go to Krishna. That is his mission in this material world. So Prabhupada is available. Please go to the nearest center or approach even through email or through phone or through message, the nearest temple, and you can actually get all guidance from Srila Prabhupada and his followers for your spiritual life. Sometimes while chanting, I realize that I chant 109 or 110 beads by mistake before starting the new round of Hare Krishna mantra with Panchatattva mantra. Is this alright or should I repeat the round? There is no harm in chanting more than 108 in a complete round. There is no harm. But it is better to be attentive and properly chant and properly count and properly hear. Because this chanting should not be done mechanically. It has to be done with full heart, with full consciousness, with full awareness, with full attention. It has to be done. So one of the ways we can ensure attention is fully given for chanting is by properly pronouncing, properly hearing and properly counting. Systematically we have to chant, hear, count. Chant, hear, count. It has to be done very meticulously. Then only our mind can become fully absorbed in the transcendental vibration of the Hare Krishna mantra. That is the goal. Why all this proper chanting, proper hearing, proper counting? Because the mind has to get absorbed in the spiritual sound, in the spiritual incarnation of the Lord in the form of His holy name. We have to get absorbed, and that is actually the goal. Therefore, attentive chanting is very important. Thank you very much.